Today we're going to talk about how to shift your business model without burning it all down. What you can actually do to make a shift, make a pivot if you've been really feeling like you want to change things up. Maybe you want to change your offers, your messaging, your ideal clients, something's wanting to change, but you don't want to burn the entire thing down and you want to do this in a really sustainable way. We're going to be talking today about how you can actually do this, how to know it's time for a little bit of a pivot, and how you can actually make this happen. So I see so many of my clients in this position when we start working together, where they've built something really good. They've been, going along, they've been getting the clients, they've been seeing some success, and on paper, things are doing really well, right? You're making the money, you have the clients, you have the programs, things are going really well. But you realize that something's off. Maybe this hasn't been built in the way that you want it to. Some of the offers aren't quite landing anymore. You're finding that you are working way too hard, that actually there's just no more room for growth anymore, and just something needs to shift for you to be able to continue growing, let alone have some actual time off of this business, but you just know that something needs to pivot somewhere. This video is going to be a big permission slip for you. I want to give you a permission slip to actually pivot if you're feeling like you really need a pivot right now. And also we're going to walk you through how to do this the really sustainable way, a way that doesn't just burn down your business, doesn't mean you are just taking everything to the ground and feeling like you're really starting over, but how can you actually do this where you're shifting things and it's really sustainable for you, and it means that actually we don't need to start from zero again. So firstly, let's talk about, do you actually need to make a pivot right now? Is this something that you're needing to do, or is it just a slight shift? Because there's degrees along this line, right? There's a big pivot, there's really changing up your offers, changing up how you're doing things, or there's just a small shift sometimes that needs to be made. So let's talk about what are some of those signs firstly, and the more of these you can really resonate with, probably the bigger of a pivot and shift is really wanting to be for you. So firstly, if you are noticing that you have really capped your time, so you are really seeing, especially as a solopreneur, of someone who is the person in your business, that actually you're spending a lot of time on these things, you're wanting to grow, you have all these goals of I want to increase my income, I'm wanting to launch this new offer, impact more people, whatever that is for you at the moment, but I don't have time for this. I'm seeing that my calendar is fully booked. I don't have the availability to be able to grow right now, and I can see that I've kind of capped myself out. If you are seeing that, definitely time to be making shifts there. Also, if you're feeling like it just doesn't really light you up anymore, if you're feeling like, I used to feel really excited about this used to feel really lit up, really aligned with me, but we're just not quite feeling that anymore. Maybe it's just feeling a little bit less aligned. It's just feeling a bit like we're going through the motions now, and we're just doing it because we need to do it and because we do have this offer and we plan this launch and all those things, but it's just not really feeling like it's super aligned anymore. Also, if you feel like you've just outgrown your offers or your ideal client and you feel like, actually my work has evolved and I haven't really moved things along with this. My offers haven't changed in years. My ideal client is still who it was a few years ago, but actually I know I can serve someone maybe a little bit further along now, or someone who's in a different position, or I've just really figured out who my absolute ideal client is, and 80% of the people I'm working with are not really in that group anymore. Any of those can be a really valid reason to just want to be making a shift in your business. And then also one of the big ones I would say is if things are just not feeling super stable or sustainable for you right now. By that, I mean, it can often look like the income side and come out in this way, but things are just looking very much month to month. They're feeling a little bit like the ground is feeling a bit rocky underneath your feet. It's not feeling like we have a stable foundation in the business, especially if you're a few years in and you're still feeling this, of feeling like I don't have that stability, I don't have that rock solid foundation underneath me. That is a sign that we're really wanting to pivot and shift something now before we get even bigger. So before we talk about what to do with this, let's talk about what not to do, and that is the burn it down response. And I see so many people do this where they think, oh my gosh, this is feeling like too much for me now. I'm gonna close down the business for 6 months. I'm gonna take a 3-month vacation. I'm going to completely shut down this offer. And then we're left in a stickier situation almost than we were before, because for example, if your main offer is something you're not feeling aligned with anymore and we just completely cold turkey just shut this thing down, then the income is completely gone from that. Then we're kind of in a situation of, oh my gosh, what do we fill the gap with? What do we plug this gap with that we've suddenly created for ourselves? And it can feel really big and really nerve-wracking and actually feel like a really hard process. And this is why a lot of people will just kind of stay in the stuckness and just stay in the, it's not feeling great, but it's kind of okay. I can kind of manage with it, when actually we could be making a pivot and actually shifting away from this in a really sustainable way. So we are not wanting to burn it down. We're not wanting to just say, okay, I'm just gonna completely close all these programs and just completely step away from everything, because that is not the sustainable way to be doing this. Most people as well, if you do the, I'm gonna completely step away from everything, they'll say, okay, I don't love this program anymore, so I'm gonna outsource as much as possible. I'm just gonna step away from this. And then they kind of end up falling into a trap that they don't like even more, which is I'm just doing the admin work for my business. So now I'm just on the back end and I'm not even working with the clients anymore. And I feel like I'm just doing back end things and I'm just a VA essentially in my business. And that is also not something which is very aligned for most people. So actually, again, that's not what we're wanting either, of just the complete pullback and left with the, pieces that we like even less. Now, most of the time people will make this big hard pivot and say, okay, I'm just gonna burn it all down. Essentially, I'm going to shut down this program. I'm going to close these doors. I'm not going to do these launches anymore, whatever it is for you. But most of the time people will do that just because it feels like the easier option. It feels like, okay, this whole thing feels kind of sticky, so I'm just going to not do that. And I'm just going to step away from that and we'll just see what happens after that. But we end up creating a harder problem for ourselves. Then it could be, okay, wow, my income has dropped by 80% now. What am I going to do? I have no idea how I'm going to recover this. Okay, that program is completely closed. And now most of my clients aren't wanting to go into this other program because this isn't something which feels really aligned for them and doesn't fit their needs, etc. We can end up creating harder problems for ourselves, and then we just end up bouncing from one problem to the other, which was, this doesn't feel good for me, this doesn't feel aligned, to now, okay, where is my income coming from? How do I get clients to sign up for this new program? If I don't do launches, what do I do instead? And we kind of just create these different problems, but we still have a problem at the end of the day. So let's talk about how to do this without actually creating a problem for yourself. So as I said, most of my clients, when we start working together and they're coming to me and saying, okay, I need to do a pivot, I need to really change things up, oftentimes we don't actually need as big of a pivot as you're thinking we need. We really just need to realign. And that's why we need to shift the mindset around this of, okay, let's look at realigning things first and finding what is off and shifting that and see how that lands before we even consider doing a hard pivot, closing down this program, drastically stepping away, not doing launches anymore, any of those things. Before we look at that, let's see if we can just realign some things and see how that feels. So the first thing I would look at there is, what is not working for you right now? What specifically is it? And don't just list the program, because it's not that the whole program isn't working. It might be that this is taking way too much of my time each week and I'm spending, 10 hours a week on just this one program when actually that is not feeling worth it for me. It could be that, I'm spending so much time on calls and I really don't like how much time I'm spending sitting on a Zoom call. I want to be doing less of that. What is the problem specifically? Get as specific as you can here, because we want to get really, really clear on what are you wanting to shift, but what is actually the problem? What is actually not working? What is the reason for you even considering making this pivot in the first place? One of my recent clients, for example, is a perfect story of this, of when we started working together, she was really feeling like something needed to pivot big. And she was feeling like, okay, I'm not working with aligned clients at the moment. I just keep getting non-aligned clients come into my space. She had about, I think it was 4 or 5 different offers, just lots of different places people could jump into, kept creating new different things and was just not getting aligned clients. So it was feeling like that feeling of, I want to just burn it all down. I want to just close all of these things because I'm not getting aligned people coming in. And also I have so many different things that my mind is just constantly working on: a new launch, new offer, new something new is constantly happening and coming up. And for her specifically, we really realized that actually it was not a big pivot she needed. She just needed to really realign here. So we slimmed down her product suite firstly and got it so that she's just offering 2 different offers. It's really, really simple now. It's really clear for her. And also, she just needed to make a shift with the messaging and with how she was showing up in her content. That was it. And just by making that shift, she's now getting actually aligned clients applying to work with her. She's had 3 people apply to work with her just over the last week at the time I'm recording this. But this is huge because she's been able to create this huge shift and fix those problems that were feeling really sticky before and feeling like I just need to close all the things because this is clearly not landing. I'm not attracting the right people. All it took was closing down a few offers, just focusing in on 2 key offers that were most successful for her and were the ones which she really enjoyed and resonated with and just the direction she wanted to go in with her business, and also shifting her messaging so she was making sure she was actually attracting the right people into those offers. And suddenly everything feels simpler, everything feels so much easier, and it's just really easy for her to actually bring in the right people. Now, the second thing I want you to do if you are even slightly considering the hard pivot is actually make a list of what is working. So we've looked at what isn't working at the moment, what is not working for you, got specific there, but what is working? Because I know there's some areas right now, I know it can feel like, okay, I just want to change lots of these things, but what are the things which are working? What are the things you are really aligned with at the moment? What is really working well? What is resonating for you? So we can get clear on actually the direction to move into. Again, this is where the realign comes in, of actually we can see where are we wanting to move towards, what are we wanting to move away from? And this can be a really big shift of actually, again, we're not making that hard pivot. We're not creating new problems of, okay, now we need to launch a new offer because none of these were working for me, when actually they were working. We just needed to do them differently. Again, you can see with that client story I shared that actually by her looking at what was working for her as well and realizing that these two programs actually were ones she was really aligned with and really fitted the direction she was wanting to move her business in, we could see that actually keeping those made a lot of sense for her. And then with that information from those two questions, I want you to look at what are some really small shifts you could make. What are 3 really small shifts you could make right now? That could be, okay, you know what? I'm going to start talking way less or not talking at all about this random course that I have, which is just really draining my energy. It could be that, you know what? Actually, I'm going to shift how many calls I have inside of my program. Whatever it is for you, what are some really small shifts you could make that fix those things that are not working and lean towards the things which are working for you? These should not be big things like I'm closing down this program, I'm completely shutting down this, I'm getting rid of all of these clients or anything like that, but just what are some small things that we can try out and just see how they feel, see how they land for you. And this is just really a little bit of a light redesign of your business model. This isn't saying we're going to completely shift things, but this is just taking a little bit of a tweak towards your business model. And this can oftentimes be the thing which actually can save this big pivot essentially and make it really easy for things to feel aligned again, feel like they really fit, feel like they're really working without you needing to do this hard pivot and make this really big shift that feels really intense for you. We can do this in a way that does still feel really simple and also is sustainable, because while we're making this big pivot or making these changes, we also are making income and we are serving clients. Like, these things still need to happen. So we can do this really sustainably then by actually looking at these small shifts. And then after these, ask yourself these same questions again and continue asking these same questions. And that is how you can do a pivot really sustainably, because we're not making any really hard changes. We're not doing a 180 on anything. We're just making tweak after tweak after tweak until we can actually get to the point of, you know what? This does feel really good now, and this feels like it really does fit. And 99% of the time, it is just those small tweaks that make the difference. It could be just that we're changing the call lengths, for example. It could be just that we're changing how many calls are happening a month in that program. We're changing the length of the program. We are, increasing the price, whatever the thing is for you, just small little tweaks and continuing to do those and just seeing how each one lands, seeing whether we need some more after that, is the really sustainable way to make this pivot for you and make a business that just feels really good for you. So this is exactly the kind of work, as you can see from that case study there, that I do with my one-to-one clients, helping you to build a business that feels really, really good, actually works for you, and just is really simple and freedom based as well. So if you're at all curious about one-to-one coaching, I will put the link in the description to schedule a discovery call with me and apply for one-to-one coaching. I would love to work with you there. I will also put the link for testimonials as well, so you can hear some other client stories, see the client's success, and see how this aligns with you. But if you're at all interested, I currently have some spaces open for one-to-one clients. So go to the link in the description, schedule a discovery call with me, and we will speak soon. I look forward to hearing all about your mini pivots, we'll call it, but really just the shifts you're making in your business to just make things more aligned. If you have any fun stories after this of just shifts that you're making and what you're going to be changing up, absolutely send me a message on Instagram. Would love to hear what they are. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure you give this a like if you enjoy these more sit down chatty videos, walking you through some different stages in your business, and I will see you in the next one.